Rabbids, and we play. What I wouldn't give to see these two walk into a bar together.
The Nintendo Wii. If you've seen my previous video on the 3DS, then you might remember me briefly touching on the fact that the Wii was my first console, so it'll always have a very special place in my heart. Now, the Wii pretty much had one job, and that was to be a multiplayer machine, and if you ask me, it performed that job pretty admirably. However, despite these 2 points, I'm an only child, so the only multiplayer action this console ever saw was on weekends when my friends would come over. Other than that, I played Cars Mater National alone, damn it, the way it was meant to be played.
However, I know there's a ton more this console has to offer in terms of multiplayer that I just didn't get to experience as a lonely-ass kid, so I thought I would delve a bit more into how different games in the system would handle multiplayer. Problem is, I only have 2 games.
Did somebody say Bleach Shattered Blade?
I didn't. How the hell did you get here?
Big hole in the wall. Doesn't matter.
I take it this means you want to be in my video about multiplayer Wii games.
Oh my god! We're talking about the Wii? I love the Wii. I love the Wii. Here, take this, take it.
Yeah, get over here. We're talking about Bleach Shattered Blade, I guess.
Starting off, we've got our first multiplayer Wii game of the night, but it's definitely not going to be our last. It's Bleach Shattered Blade. This is a one-on-one fighting game based on the manga and anime series Bleach, which I just so happen to be a pretty big fan of. The game itself is separated into the standard modes you'd expect to find in any old fighting game, those being single battle, arcade mode, and the story mode, which is called episode mode here. Since this is primarily a video about multiplayer games, let's start off with single battle. I'd assume this mode is primarily for playing with a friend, but if you're really just itching to play exactly one fight by yourself and get off, I guess this mode has you covered. Immediately, we're greeted with this game's roster, and I must say it's pretty extensive for this point in the story. Look, they put Hanataro in here, not even Arby's can say that! Now, I don't actually have all the characters unlocked, in fact, I don't have most of them, but that's a point I'll get to in due time. After arguing for a good 14 minutes on who gets to play Grimmjow, we're thrown kicking, screaming, and crying into this game's core gameplay. Okay, admittedly, it's not that bad. But I do want you to remember that this game was released in 2006 in Japan and 2007 in North America, right around the Wii's launch. Taking that into account alongside the fact that this game primarily revolves around sword-based combat, and I think you can assume the only way this game's gonna let you play it. Yes, every attack you do in this game is done with a swing of the Wii Remote, while holding down the A and B buttons for medium and heavy attacks respectively. Does it get old pretty fast? Yes. Does it start to hurt after a while? Yeah, sure, if you're playing suboptimally. Does it add nothing more to the game besides a selling point on the back of the box? Yeah, definitely. But is it kind of funny, and do I kinda like it? Yeah. Now, I think this would have worked a bit better with something a bit more fast-paced, like a hack and slash, but what do I know, I'm not a game designer. Now, aside from the elephant in the room, this plays pretty similarly to your standard fighting game, with the caveat that I don't think it's very good at being a fighting game. And at the time of its release, there weren't really any other fighting games on the Wii, so around that time, if you only had a Wii and really wanted to play a fighting game, this was pretty much all you had. Although I will say this game definitely works best as a multiplayer game, especially if you and your friend both happen to like Bleach. Which we do, can't you tell? Just pitting characters against each other that have no business fighting is just plain funny. Especially when Hanataro wins. I love this guy, he's so stupid. I know that's kind of the bare minimum for a licensed fighting game, but it doesn't make it any less enjoyable here. It also works better in multiplayer because the single player offerings kinda suck. I now present to you a visual representation of what playing this game by myself was like.
It wasn't fun.
First up, we've got the star of the show, the episode mode. Some characters have their own unique stories to play through, taking place shortly after the destruction of the Sokyoku, following that character collecting the shards of said Sokyoku to do something. I think. It depends, everyone's got their own reasons. You run into the rest of the cast who also wants the shards, who you promptly beat because this game is really easy. As you will soon learn by playing this game for hours by yourself in the dark, the attacks in this game are very spammable. You'll also learn how to hate yourself. Once you've gone through enough battles, turns out you've been tricked by everyone's favorite Bleach character, Arturo. Why are you looking at me like that? You know, Arturo Plateado. That guy. There was that one fight when he fought... Wait a minute, this isn't a real character, this is just a sham! Everybody, meet Arturo Plateado. Oh, come on, you guys could at least say hi. He's a character created specifically for this game. At a quick glance at this game's box art, you might not even be able to recognize that this is a new character, given his passing similarity to Grimmjow. I know I didn't. You defeat him like you would any of the other fights, he's honestly easier than some of the fights that came before him. He then talks about how he's vanishing, boom, roll credits, you can now play as Rukia. Wait, she wasn't even in the base roster? Overall, episode mode is alright, but it's very repetitive. There's nothing really to differentiate the different characters' episodes besides the cutscenes that play, so they all end up feeling exactly the same. Now, the cutscenes themselves can be kind of fun if you're a Bleach fan, but other than that, this mode doesn't really have a whole lot to offer, if anything. Neither does the arcade mode, which plays out pretty similarly to the episode mode. Just win about 7 fights and then you're done. Although these fights are best 2 out of 3, so they'll take you a little longer. These 2 modes are pretty much all you have to do if you're playing single player, and if you want to unlock more characters than the base, like, 12 in the roster, then you gotta play these a lot. That's right, you can't do anything to unlock characters in multiplayer. It's a single player only thing. If you and a friend want to get more characters to play as, the duty falls to the one who owns the game to grind out arcade and episode mode runs by themselves. What makes it a little more annoying is the fact that a lot of these characters are part of larger unlock trees, so if you want to play as Grimmjow, set aside an afternoon, take it from me, you're gonna be here a while.
Well, that's the over-under on Bleach Shattered Blade. It's not a very good game, but much like a vasectomy, it's better with a friend.
The fuck?
We're playing Rabbids now.
Upon starting up the game, we make our save file, and holy shit, there's a foreign object inside the Wii remote.
Well, it's infested.
Orange attack. Ultra combo. This is a rabbit, and it's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 minutes or so. These things just wouldn't go away in the 2010s. You couldn't escape them even if you tried, and many did. I was always a bit more accepting of our new overlords. You can tell because I have Rabbids Rumble because I genuinely wanted to play it. Anyways, after brutalizing this poor guy for a couple dozen minutes, we're given the Oscar-worthy plot of this game. The Rabbids want to go to the moon as they think that is their home. Now, how are they going to do that? Well, they're gonna stack literally everything they can find, of course. Now, why didn't they think of that? After that, we're chucked into the tutorial of this game. You take control of 2 parasites and their shopping cart host as you gather up as many materials as possible to add them to the stack. These items can range from toilet paper to traffic cones and even people's clothes.
Tell me the rabbits are sex offenders. They're my friends.
Yeah?
No.
After the tutorial, we're thrown into our first level where we... wait a minute.
Wait, I feel like we're missing something here.
What am I supposed to do?
Oh yeah, the multiplayer. The box says it has it, so it must be around here somewhere.
I guess it's time to address the elephant in the room that I'm pretty sure you were all thinking. Rabbids Go Home, released on November 3rd, 2009 for the Nintendo Wii, was not designed to be a multiplayer game. So why am I talking about it in a video about multiplayer games on the Wii? Well, cause I wanted to. Stop asking so many questions. Admittedly, it's also because it houses another way games handle multiplayer that I want to briefly touch on, which I'm gonna dub the Little Brother mode. These multiplayer modes exist purely to throw a selling point on the back of a game's box that you can do this all with a friend, when in reality, all the second player can really do is vaguely affect the game. In this game, the second player gets a pointer and the ability to shoot however many rabbids they damn well please, which is a lot of fucking rabbids. What makes this way funnier is that this is something the first player can already do, and playing multiplayer doesn't take away player 1's ability to do this, so player 2 really doesn't matter at all. This is something I'd assume you give to a little sibling when you want to shut them up and make them feel like they're actually accomplishing something in life. Although, again, only child, so I can only assume here. I mean, it's not the absolute worst thing in the world. If you and a friend were stuck in the Arctic with nothing but a TV, a Wii, and Rabbids Go Home, you could entertain yourselves until hypothermia set in. It also helps that, unlike the last game we talked about, this is a genuinely fun and good game. It's not a deep game by any means, but the core gameplay is addicting enough, and the scenarios are insane enough to keep you coming back. If anything, this game needed multiplayer for the simple reason of being able to share a couple laughs with a friend.
Well, that was kind of a letdown. It would have been a lot more fun if the multiplayer mode involved 2 different sets of rabbids, each with their own shopping cart or something along those lines.
Hey, I liked it. I felt like I was helping.
Wanna play Wii Play?
Boy, I sure do!
What's there to say about Wii Play that hasn't already been said? This game has posed me. Okay, now what's there to say that hasn't already been said? Wii Play is a game that I can personally relate a lot to, because it was bundled in with Wii remotes around the time of the Wii's launch. This meant that Wii Play sold like hotcakes, and I don't know what a hotcake is, but judging by how much Wii Play sold, I can assume. This meant that pretty much every family that had a Wii had Wii Play. I mean, how could you pass up that deal? That's also what I'd like to ask my parents. That's right, I'm one of the sad bastards that never got to experience Wii Play's tanks before today. But what is Wii Play? That. The long and short of it is, it's a minigame collection centered around teaching you how to use one of those newfangled Wii remotes. Now, if you're all alone but want a piece of that Wii Play pie, this game is more than serviceable. But we're not here to talk about what you can do as a bachelor in this game. We're here to talk about what you can do with another flesh and blood human. We're going to quickly go through all the minigames and rank them, mostly based on multiplayer viability, but single player enjoyment will be factored in. If you came here for an exclusively single player perspective on Wii Play, you read the title. First up, we've got Shooting Range. In this somewhat spiritual successor to Duck Hunt, the Mii's exercise their Second Amendment rights. Pretty self-explanatory, all you really do here is point at the screen and shoot stuff. That stuff involves ducks, discs, targets, alien ambassadors, and balloons! While you could technically point at the screen with any game under the sun, Shooting Range sets the tone for the rest of the games on Wii Play by having you actively benefit from it. Before this, all I gained from that was being laughed at. Overall, this game's a pretty good time, both alone and with a partner in crime. Although the competition aspect definitely does add to it, so play this with someone else if you can. After that, it's time to wash the taste of a fun game out of our mouths with Find Me. This game sucks. Like a lot. You're tasked with finding either a specific Mii or a Mii that's been repeated, and it gets old really fast. And it's not any better with a victim either. You'll both just be sitting there wondering why the hell you're both wasting your time trying to find this Mii that someone I knew as a kid put on here named Black Ops. You know what isn't boring though? Table tennis. At least in real life, this game's alright. Not really much to comment on here other than it's table tennis, but not really. Your paddle follows the Wii Remote's pointer, so it doesn't really feel like you're actually holding the paddle, but rather like you're pointing at one, telling it where to go as it hits the ping pong ball automatically. Not bad, but I wouldn't recommend playing it by yourself. That's how the deep ones try to communicate with you. Now, what you should be playing by yourself is Pose Me. You gotta get that practice in for the big tournament. Wedding, funeral, doesn't matter, skip them. You gotta play Pose Me. Your goal here is to line up your Mii with the silhouettes on the falling bubbles in order to pop them. Let 3 drop in, well, you're a failure. Switch between 3 poses with the A and B buttons, just like in real life, and there you have it. The best game to put on at a talent show. Now, all joking aside, this game is actually pretty fun, especially with another person. It can get pretty frantic, but you end up getting into a sort of groove with it, and I don't really know if I should be ashamed or proud of the fact that I enjoyed my time with a game that looks like this. Alright, we gotta balance out again with another whatever game. Laser Hockey, you're up. It's fine, completely inoffensive, but if this is the kind of game you're writing home about, then I have a lot of questions. All you really gotta do here is use your pointer to hit the puck into your opponent's goal, but it's really touchy. I don't want to talk about it. Although the aesthetic is kinda neat, I guess. Billiards is up next, and it's pretty good. The Wiimote does a pretty good job at mimicking a pool cue, although there is one problem I encountered with this game. I absolutely suck ass at pool, both in real life and Wii Play, the ultimate measure of coolness. This game doesn't follow the typical 8-ball rules that most people probably think of when they think of billiards. In this one, you just gotta pocket all 9 balls in order, with some leeway if you hit a ball in as collateral. For the kind of game Wii Play is, this works a bit better than I think 8-ball would. I think that'd get a bit too long here. Third to last in this list of minigames, we've got Fishing. This is probably the first game here that I actually prefer playing by myself. This game doesn't really lend itself too well to a competitive environment in my opinion. I enjoyed it way more in a dark, damp room by myself, the only optimal way to play. It also controls pretty well for an early Wii game relying on motion controls as well, which I know is most of the games here, but in my opinion it was most noticeable here. And now we've got Charge, finally something easy to explain. You ride a cow down the road as fast as you can while running over pedestrians and committing regicide. Probably the most realistic game here. I've had to explain that a lot today, so I'd prefer if you all just internalize that so I don't have to repeat myself. Much like a lot of the games on Wii Play, it's decent. You ride a cow, so bonus points for that. As a multiplayer experience, it's a bit more decent. You want to get ahead of your opponent so you can slaughter all the innocents before they can, which adds an extra layer of depth to the game. Nothing I'm going to be kept up at night thinking about, but we can't all be Pose Me. Last but certainly not least, we've got the most game of all the games here, Tanks. You've heard how people rave about this game online, you've probably played it, you know it's pretty good. It's easily got the most stuff to do out of all the games here with some great music to boot. Your goal is, on paper, pretty simple. You just take out the opposing tanks before getting blown up yourself. And in practice, it is simple, but that's the beauty of Wii Tanks. Playing this game with a friend adds tremendously to the whole experience as well. You can kill each other. You both do have a shared objective, so you don't need to do it, but it's sort of a primal urge, you can't help yourself. Just a great time all around, highly recommended. Alright, well that's all the minigames. Also, something fun this game does is keep a tally on the game selection screen of who's won more games. It's not necessary, but it appeals to all of our innate instincts to sweat our asses off and Find Me, and I hate Find Me. Alright, now time for the ranking I promised, going from worst to best. Go! At the bottom and 9th, we got Find Me. This game makes me both irrationally and rationally angry. 8th is Laser Hockey, just play table tennis if you want a game like this. 7th, table tennis. It's laser hockey without the intense feeling of sadness while playing, and it marks the beginning of games I consider to be worth playing. Number 6, and I know this is gonna hurt a lot, but Pose Me. It's fun, but after looking at pretty much everything else here, it's just not as good. 5th, Charge. Did you internalize what I said before? Good, because I'm not talking about this game again. 4th is Shooting Range, just a solid score attack mode. 3rd, Billiards. It's billiards, it's fun. I know you like billiards, I see everything. 2nd is Fishing. It's pretty fun by yourself, not as good with another person, but it's not something your friends will object to playing. And in 1st, you can see it coming a mile away, it's Tanks. Compared to the rest of the games here, and by itself, it's great. A blast no matter what.
Well, that about makes up my quota for multiplayer Wii games for today. Now get the hell out. So those were 3 multiplayer Wii games. We went from a game that kinda needs multiplayer to get more than 30 minutes of enjoyment out of, to a game with a completely superfluous multiplayer mode, and finally finishing off with Wii Play, a game that's both fun by yourself and with another person. Now, Wii Play is probably the best game here, at least for the purposes of this video, but I can't lie, Rabbids is also pretty fun. This game's also here.
Doorbell noise.
Wonder who that can be. Well, would you look at that? Me talking about a completely random selection of Wii games has landed me a job interview. The interview is right after an arbitrary length of time has passed and I make another video. We're talking about Bleach Shattered Blade, I guess. That was also upside down. That makes it funnier.
It does.
Bleach, no! You're damaging, not Grimjow.
No.